the ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel was announced on the 26th of November 2024, and it was like a Bibi Netanyahu statement that came from Israel announcing that Israel agrees on a ceasefire, and then after that it followed by a statement made by the President of the United States of America, President Biden, announcing the ceasefire, and then after that it was followed by President Macron from France announcing it. The last people, or the last to announce the acceptance of the ceasefire or about the ceasefire was the Lebanese government. So on the 27th of November, the day after, the Speaker of the Parliament, who was the main negotiator of this deal with the Americans, announced that this is a ceasefire and we are okay with it. And it was followed by the Prime Minister, Nabih Mikati, who announced as well that this is kind of like the ceasefire we agreed on. And it was really like, I guess it was picked up by many that Lebanon was the last to announce it. It was announced by Speaker of the Parliament, and then it was announced by the Prime Minister. It is a caretaker government, so and then mainly the Speaker of the Parliament was the main negotiator. So it was picked up that okay, so these were the two main players, but the main player from the Lebanese side was the Speaker of the Parliament, who many said that he did not negotiate on behalf of the Lebanese country or the Lebanese government or the Lebanon as a country, but mainly he was the main negotiator on behalf of Hezbollah. And this was a bit of a tension in the country, saying that would he be able to agree on a ceasefire that is good for the country, or will he be signing agreeing on a ceasefire that is in the best it's best for Hezbollah. So that was one of the issues that were picked up early, like this week, when everyone was discussing about the ceasefire. And then, as I said, like the way that Lebanon was the last to announce it, that was again something that many criticized. So what comes into this ceasefire? Basically, what it is in it, and it's unfortunate that the agreement and the terms of the agreements were not shared by to the Lebanese public. And that was another issue that was raised. And even in the parliament, there were many parliamentarians were raising the issue that they haven't seen the agreement that we were supposed to agree on, even though it is the Speaker of the Parliament that is negotiating the deal. So, but the deal is out now, and the agreement is out in many newspapers, and basically it is what it has been talked about. Like, it talks about a ceasefire for 60 days, and after that, if the conditions are there, it will be a permanent ceasefire. So this is something that we shouldn't be forgetting, that within 60 days, there are some issues that need to be solved. One of them is like the ability of the Lebanese Armed Forces to enter into the regions, what we call the southern Litani area. And this is like on the borders with Israel and the close borders. And this is in the 7-10 kilometers that Israel was saying that it wants a guarantee that Hezbollah is not going to be present there. So this is gradually, the Lebanese Armed Forces will enter into these areas, and gradually, and within the 60 days, Israelis need to be leaving that area. So you would understand that within this whole year of fighting, and especially after the September intensified fightings between Israel and Hezbollah, Israelis were able to enter into the country and occupy parts of the southern part of Lebanon. So there is now, and within this agreement, there is a guarantee that there should be a gradual deployment of the Lebanese army, and gradually the Israeli army should withdraw, and there shouldn't be any presence for the Israeli army on the Lebanese ground. So that is at least a good point, so that there is no permanent occupation to the Lebanese land. But at the same time, the Lebanese armed forces need to enter into the area, the southern Litani area, and they should make sure to dismantle any kind of infrastructure that is related to Hezbollah, to the military apparatus of Hezbollah, any kind of arms, any kind of weapons, any kind of infrastructure that is related to any military action that Hezbollah militants or fighters could take. So there are no clear issues related to fighters themselves being there, because you know that one problem is that fighters, many of, if not most of the Hezbollah fighters live in these areas, in the southern border, and they are from the villages. So there is nothing in the text that kind of says what will happen to these fighters. It says that yes, the population could go back. So who is going to check if these population, like whoever is going into their villages, if they're part of Hezbollah or they're not part of Hezbollah? So there are a lot in the details of the implementation of the deployment of the Lebanese armed forces and making sure that there is no Hezbollah presence on the southern border, those that are not clear, and that we will see it like with the implementation, and it will be clearer like what these agreements were, and that we don't see in the agreement itself. The other point that was like picked up as well is the freedom of action of the Israelis. In case they see any kind of threat, they will be able to react to that through the means that they see fit. So a bombing, attacking, I don't know, not clear, but they say that within the self-defense mechanisms that they can have that. But it says in the text as well that Lebanon and Israel have the freedom of self-defense. So again, that is one point. But again, what does Israel understand as a threat, existential threat to its security or not, is to be seen as well, and how this will be implemented. So, and there will be, if you want, the enforcement mechanism to make sure that the 1701, which is the UN resolution that was passed in 2006 after the war between Lebanon and Israel, again, Hezbollah and Israel in 2006. After that, it was a 33-day war that ended with the resolution, UN resolution 1701 in 2006. That obviously was breached so many times from the Israeli side and from the Lebanese side. So the most important part that the Israelis and the Americans agreed on, and they came with that to the Lebanese, was that there should be an enforcement mechanism to make sure that the 1701 is applied and applicable. And that is part of it. Like mainly it's about the presence of the military presence of Hezbollah on the southern parts of the Litani, on the southern parts of the Lebanon-Israel border. So that enforcement mechanism, you have in that the Americans and the French, who will make sure that the 1701, it is being applied and implemented. And this is something new that didn't exist before. There was like always a committee that was composed of the UNIFIL, Lebanon, Israel. So now you're adding like new elements, the enforcement mechanism element, which has the Americans and the French. And there was a problem with the French being part of that. And the Israelis had refused, and they didn't want the French to be part of that implementation or enforcement mechanism committee. But then there was an agreement that France would be accepted by the Israelis if France tones down on the ICC decision regarding Bibi Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant. So to see that, you see, this is like kind of the politics of it. And so that was part of the deal. And therefore, France was accepted again to be part of the implementation and the enforcement mechanism. So that is what we are going to see within 60 days, to see like active deployment of the army. If within these 60 days, it seems that if Israel sees that this is not enough for them, that might mean that we might go back to some military activities. So 60 days are very crucial. And there are some voices that you're hearing saying that, yeah, 60 days are enough for Netanyahu, for his army to breathe a bit, for the Biden administration to end and leave, and for Trump to take over, and then to come to the administration, to come to power. And then that might mean that, okay, the attacks could resume, or that means that there would be attacks, more fierce attacks on Iran. And therefore, if there are attacks on Iran, would that mean that Hezbollah will retaliate from Lebanon? And that would be a breach of this whole agreement. So these are like the big questions for the future that we are waiting to see. But definitely, just to say that it is a big relief for the Lebanese, because in the past year, and especially after September 2024, where we call the incident of the pagers, when all the pagers of the Hezbollah blew up, and then after that, like the attacks intensified, and it were like attacks on Beirut and in the suburbs of Beirut, and in very populated areas, in different places in the Bekaa and in the city of Sur and other places. So it was a big nightmare. It was really a nightmare for the Lebanese population, and there were like more than 1 million people displaced from their places. So that was a lot of pressure on the Lebanese to take. So there is this sense of a bit like this pressure has taken off from them. It's not like the population cares much about the agreement itself. They just want to see an end to the fire and to the military actions. It's more like on the political end that people care about, like this ceasefire agreements. So for people, it's like finally they can sleep, have like normal sleeping hours without having to wake up at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 2 o'clock with bombings around them. So on a humanitarian side, on a humane side, people are at least now more relaxed that this has ended. Definitely there are the day after of reconstruction and getting out of this trauma socially. But on the political side, the main point today is the future of Hezbollah in the Lebanese politics and Lebanese arena. Hezbollah is refusing to declare defeat. They're still saying that whatever, we are victorious. And this like not being able to declare the defeat means that they still want to play the same role that they used to play in the Lebanese politics. And this is something that is like many are refusing to see. And they feel that no, Hezbollah on its own went into a war and decided to go into a war to support Gaza and to support Hamas. They haven't consulted with the Lebanese government or the Lebanese parliament, and they entered into this. They caused all this to the Lebanese people, and today they cannot say that they are victorious. They have to declare defeat, and they cannot continue business as usual after the ceasefire. And this is now the whole political battle that will be in the country between Hezbollah wanting to keep its power and its control the way it had before 8th of October, and the other political entities saying that no, now it's time to renegotiate Hezbollah's political positioning and political presence in the Lebanese politics. And no one is saying that because the Hezbollah's project in the country has been defeated, it doesn't mean that the Shia community has been defeated, because that's one problem as well. The Shia community is an important community in Lebanon, same as the Christian communities and the Sunni communities, and the Druze communities. And these are like all communities that form Lebanon. But we need to find a way to live together, to agree on the way going forward without one party, which was Hezbollah, was taking control of the country and taking the country hostage and taking us to different directions that many didn't want to see. So the political battle is there on the role of Hezbollah in the coming future in the country, in the politics of the country. And we have to wait and see what will happen in that front. Is there going to be an opposition, like a national opposition to that, to work, like to make sure that Hezbollah, if the political entity wants to keep playing a role, as a representative of communities, etc., and with a certain agenda, etc., certain agenda, local agenda, and a Lebanese agenda, and not an Iranian agenda, that then would be one way to think about, like, okay, how to rethink the politics in Lebanon. So that's the main point today when it comes to the politics of the country and the future of the country.